In this video, I'll be talking you through my first full week back of running, which ends in a park run on the Saturday and a long run on Sunday. I'll also touch on why cross training is still a big part of my week and why I'm still doing my strength and conditioning. So for context, I've had this hip niggle really that's been in the background for the past year or so, and I've took a indefinite time off about a month ago just to make sure that I could just give it some rest, let it fully heal. It was an injury that was hampering me but would still allow me to run, so it was quite annoying that I still felt fine to easy run, but it was affecting my consistency, affecting me upping my mileage and doing quicker sessions. So I took a full three and a half weeks rest in the hope that my body would recover, it might sort itself out a little bit, and to be honest, yes, it has helped. I've rested, I've done cross training in between, which has also helped have a different stimulus. But I've also gone back into running training from last week, so I've really eased in, and that's an approach that I'll continue to have. It's one that I've eased in with. The first run was a 12-minute run, 2-minute walk, and then another 12-minute run. I then progressed this week on Monday onto a continuous 30-minute run, so not looking at the pace, just looking at the time, and feeling quite comfortable running for 30 minutes, but my hip didn't really scream out anything at me and I felt fine. My next target was then to up this sort of duration a little bit each time, so I continued the cycling and the swimming, and my next run from here was on Thursday night, so I do my coach session on a Thursday, and I ran up to the session. It's about a mile away, joined in at the back of the session, so it was still sort of a pace that was probably a little bit easier than my easy run, and had plenty of stop and start so that I wasn't overloading my hip whilst I was introducing the session and explaining it. And I ran back from the session, so all in all it was an hour of activity, of moving time. I did about 10k, just over 6 miles in that hour, so felt okay to do that. My next goal then was to test something shorter but at a little bit quicker speed. So last weekend I'd done a park run, and park run was solely just an easy kind of run. I probably went a little bit quicker than my easy pace, more into a steady pace, and finished just over 22 minutes last week. But this week's park run, I had the full intent to go out noticeably a bit quicker than that, but obviously not set off, hurtling off at a daft pace, just really a comfortable pace which felt a little bit of a step up from like an easy, or an even step up from a steady run. So it was more like my old marathon pace, sort of at 6:40 per mile when I looked at my watch after, and I ended up finishing the park run in around 20:40, which was a decent sort of time, bearing in mind I've not been under 20 at that course this year, although I feel like I probably could have done. I've never done it, so it was not that far from sort of peak fitness for this year. So I feel like I'm quite encouraged by all of the cross training I've done, so I think that has really helped my general fitness levels, my cardio fitness, with all the cycling and swimming I've been doing. And yeah, it gives me a really good positive view on that. I feel like I can come back even stronger. So far this week I've ticked off those 3 good milestones. So I've ticked off that I can do a couple of shorter, more typical midweek runs, and I've also ticked off that if I want to, I can push for pace for a park run. And this is probably a sign that in the next week or 2 I can start to introduce sessions back in, which would be good. I enjoy doing sessions in my training and they do make me quicker, so that is a positive sign really that I can do that. So yeah, that's where we'll be going from here. And today is my next box to tick, so it's a slightly longer run today. And in my head I've got that arbitrary number of a 10 miler, but a 10 mile, whilst it might seem quite a long run, when I am back in training it will be 10 miles is probably a run that I could do on a weeknight. So I'll be doing upwards of this on the weekend. I'll be doing at least 13, pushing up to 20 miles and beyond when I get into training for the Valencia marathon. So it's a good test to see that I can hold a decent pace, a decent form for, it's going to be around an hour and 20 minutes, somewhere around there, that 8-minute mile pace. So we'll see how today goes. I've come up to Albert Village Lake to do it, so I've got a 1.2 mile loop, but at any point if I feel like I'm struggling I can turn around and jog home. So let's see how today goes. Well, I've finished on the lake now and I've got about 2 miles to go left in my run, so it's gone pretty well. The fact that it's helped me today is that I had a very nice welcome surprise when I got here. Got halfway into my first lap and I got to see Jamie and his daughter Ava on my bike, so it was good to share 3 or 4 laps with them. She's been doing brilliantly, keeping her dad company on the bike, and has done a marathon distance over the whole week in the last 2 weeks. So she's done 42k each week, so well done to Ava for keeping your dad company on the bike and for keeping me company this morning too. And the word I'm going to use to describe today's run and this week's running as a whole is a word that I used to describe last week's run, the first run that I'd done in about 3 or 4 weeks. So that word is buzzing. I'm buzzing to be back, just to be ticking off different milestones that I think in any endeavour, when you first start or when you return to it after a period, that it is so motivating to make that quick progress early on. And I feel that I'm in that stage at the moment. So for me as a runner and a coach myself, is the main thing is to sort of put a dampener on this a little bit, which sounds counterintuitive, but I need to hold myself back that I'm not doing too much too soon, and while I've got this motivation, and just building up steadily so that it helps me in my long term and going into Valencia marathon. And that wraps up this week of running. So my first full week back has been 23 miles of running, so it's a good total to start on, spread over 4 runs, with the longest being the 10 mile today and a couple of shorter runs in there, and then a harder effort at park runs. So I'll look to probably keep 4 to 5 runs in next week as I build this up. On the cross training front, I've had a similar distance, so I've had 80 miles on the bike and I've only had 1 swim this week. So I will like to keep the cross training in while my volume is relatively low, and as my running volume is increasing, I'll drop that cross training volume in time a little bit, but I don't want to completely drop that off. I think it is still good to have a bit of extra fitness in there where I'm not running and putting extra pressure on my joints. So if I have got the time within the week, I would like to keep that in, but the priority now is to get back to running, is to keep up with the strength and conditioning, that I'm doing a gym session once every week where I'll put weights in there and work on running specific strength and conditioning to try and keep off injuries more than anything, but also add to improve my running form and strengthen my running muscles. I will also be keeping up the mobility, so the physio exercises I've been doing for my hip, they're sort of daily, every other day. I do a little bit here and there to make sure that my joints are mobilised and I am strengthening around that hip area. So that is the plan going forwards. I'll look to increase my mileage a little bit next week as we ease back into trying to find a good base fitness really before I start the Valencia marathon block, so that will soon come round. As always, thanks for watching, thanks for your attention in this video, and I will be back with a video next week. If you did like this content, please do like the video, think about subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.